And knowing my technical abilities, if I disappear or whatever, please, I'll be running for Victoria to help me, and forgive my absence for a moment.
Not a problem. I'm reminded of your joke back last spring of 2020 when we got you on one of our first webinars, and your comment was something about it's not easy to turn a boomer into a zoomer. Happy to be with you.
Still true.
Yes. Yes, it has turned over to 12 o'clock, so we're just doing some mild bantering while we admit everybody from the lobby. Everybody should have their cameras and mics turned off to so we can optimize our bandwidth and our connection with everybody here. And believe it or not, this is our 131st annual general meeting. Don't look a day over 40. So still see them coming in here. Okay, so welcome to that 131st annual general meeting. If you could turn your cameras and mics off, unless you have are on the speaking panel at any time this afternoon. My name is Kim Smythe. I am the President and CEO of the Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce, and I will be the moderator of the 131st annual general meeting. I will acknowledge with respect that we are on the traditional territories of the Nanaimo, Stonaz, and Suminas First Nations, and pay respect for the privilege to live, work, and play here. Some housekeeping on voting questions and discussion. Members in good standing will be voting on 9 motions today. Board members moving and seconding these motions have volunteered in advance to do that to help move the process along. We tried that approach last year, it worked very well, and it made sure that we could spend time on the business as opposed to wandering around looking for who's voting for what and when and how. Any member with a comment or question, please use the chat panel to type your name and question in. Questions will be moderated, and the chat panel, I've been reminded to go to everybody, is at the top of your Teams screen, signified by the wavy hand and smiley face. When the vote is called on a motion, we will ask for objections only to make it easier to count rather than counting each and every vote or waiting for people who are lax in voting to ring in. And if we're only looking at the objections, then we can deal with those and move along. So we're going to test that system out now with motion number 1, adopting the agenda. This has been moved by Corey Hostetter and seconded by Shauna McPhillips. Is there any discussion or questions? Please enter into the chat box. And I will bounce around here looking for that. So seeing no objections, motion passes. And motion number 2, approving the minutes from the 130th annual general meeting. They were provided in the annual review. Motion by Shauna McPhillips, seconded by Corey Hostetter. Discussions or questions, please enter into the chat box. I'm wondering if somebody can just enter into the chat box to make sure that we have it working. Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. It is working. And seeing no objections to the to motion number 2 to approve the minutes from last year's AGM, that motion passes. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our board chair, Shauna McPhillips, with her report.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm going to try and keep it pretty brief today, folks. You can catch my formal report in your AGM report. With that said, I do have a few things I'd like to say. First, I'd like to acknowledge all of the hard work of this volunteer board. 2020 was one of the most challenging years in my career, and I know I'm not alone. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah?
Not too bad.
Yeah, we're good? Okay. So regardless of what was happening in each of our own lives and businesses, this board really remained committed to the chamber. And you don't always get that. It's not a given. So I just want to acknowledge that. And the professionalism of this board really is top notch. Your ideas and feedback are always strategic. Your decisions, regardless however big or small, are always made after careful consideration. And I just want to thank you. It's been an honor serving as your chair for these past 2 years. Second, I'd like to thank the 3 board members leaving us this term, Meryl Shaley, Graham Morey, and Greg Phillips. All of them have served full terms with the chamber and have contributed countless hours to the organization. I could go on and on about the work that these professionals have done. However, we do have a tight agenda and certainly not enough hours to describe all of their contributions. But I would like to say on behalf of the board, we'd like to thank you. Third, I'd like to thank CEO Kim. This man works tirelessly for the benefit of the chamber. And in 2020, Kim had to pivot quickly within the new COVID environment. He ensured our members not only had the resources to adapt themselves throughout the restart and recovery process, but he made sure that they had the information in a way that was easy to understand and interpret. There was a lot coming at everyone really quickly. And while doing all of that, of course, we also had to look at our own operations and look for ways to reinvent and remain relevant in this changing world. And I know for a fact that not all chambers adapted as well as we did. So I'd like to thank you, Kim. I'm always amazed by your creativity, a natural instinct and ideas. The work you did in 2020 was really instrumental in ensuring that we ended the year in a strong financial position. And then lastly, I'd just like to thank our members who have really stood by their commitment to the chamber. I know that the way things don't look the same, and we've had to really adapt and change, but I'm hopeful that together we have the strength to keep achieving great things and whatever the future will throw at us. And after last year, I'm confident we can do that. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. And I don't know if the camera shows it, but I turned red at least once during that. So, we're going to adopt the chair's report now, I hope. It was moved by Corey Hostetter and seconded by Dan Kaczyrka. Any questions or discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. Again, objections only, please. And I'll give you a moment for any comments. Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you again, Corey. Let's move on to the next motion, next slide. So as always, we dissolve the board of directors before introducing the new board of directors, new nominees, and so on. So the dissolution of the board of directors was moved by Graham Morey, seconded by Meryl Shaley. Call the vote. Seeing no objections, motion passes. Next slide, please. And we'll go on to introduce some of the new board members coming on board, and I've asked them in advance to say a few words about themselves. So next slide, please. And we begin with the man who isn't here. Jake was unable to join us today, but I am deeply honored by City Council's approval of an appointed seat at the Chamber board table of a city representative. I am doubly impressed and pleased that the individual whose council has selected is Jake Rudolph, Chief Administrative Officer of the city. I one of the first things when Jake moved to Nanaimo in July of 2018, we met and I said, here are my 5 goals with you in this seat and me in my seat. And the first one was to have city representation at the board table. We tried this once about 5 years ago. It worked fabulously. Jake has prior experience doing this in Fredericton. He had held that same role and sat on the chamber board and continually tells me how much he enjoyed that interaction. So really looking forward to having Jake at the table and continuing to work so closely with the city on all the projects that we have. Thanks, Jake. Next slide, please. I'd like to introduce Ian Anderson, who has accepted our nomination. Ian is the Chief Executive Officer of the Mid-Island Consumer Services Co-op, so the co-op. Ian gladly accepted the nomination. We specifically considered Ian because of our board matrix was not strong in retail, and I couldn't think of a better individual locally to sit on our board and represent that sector than Ian Anderson. So Ian, if you want to take it away, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can see me there. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. For those of you that don't know Mid-Island Co-op, we're owned by 60,000 members throughout the Mid-Island area, and that represents B2B and B2C customers. So we cover all areas, both in the fuel and energy business as well as in the liquor business, which is our most recent foray. Accepted the invitation because I feel it's really important that we have a strong business community throughout the Mid-Island area, as that drives our economy and helps us have a strong and vibrant community. So certainly really appreciate the opportunity to serve on the Nanaimo Chamber Board. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Ian. I wish we had 60,000 members. Next up, Aaron Serkan. Aaron is a business advisor and senior manager, private enterprise for MNP. MNP is not an appointed seat of the board, but is a fixture at the board. As long as I've been involved with the chamber, we have had a prominent representative from MNP. And so with Meryl stepping down this year, we're excited to have Aaron join us at the board table. Aaron, do you have a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. Yeah, my name is Aaron Serkan, as Kim mentioned, working with MNP. It is a great opportunity to continue, as you mentioned, the tradition of having MNP on the board. My family and I have been in Nanaimo for about 7 years now. We're happy that we can call Nanaimo our permanent home. So I think it's a great opportunity for myself to now give back to the community. And I'm really excited to serve on the board of directors for the next couple of years and hopefully even further beyond. As my role with MNP, I work with already local businesses in Nanaimo and on the Greater Vancouver Island area. So it's really a nice bridge to, again, connect personally with other business leaders through the chamber board role, as well as get to know my home. So I'm looking forward to it going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. And Aaron has been helpful to us through the webinars that we've been doing where we're providing financial and accounting advice. Aaron has been kind of our guest star in those. Our next new nominee is John Winter. John and I have known each other quite a long time. He is the base manager for Harbor Air here in Nanaimo. So if you're ready, John, please take it away. Say a few words.
Hi, good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, as Kim said, I'm John Winter. I'm the base manager for Harbor Air Seaplanes here in Nanaimo, and I've been in that position for just under 11 years now. I've worked with Kim, as he's mentioned, quite a bit on various projects here in the city. I find that Nanaimo has so much potential, and I'm really looking forward to working with all the other business leaders and, actually recognizing that potential and ensuring that we can, once we get out of these somewhat uncertain times, we can, tap into the prosperity that I think we actually have here in town, and you know, promote that not just within our community, but again now further afield, you know, and hopefully worldwide. We've got a customer base that comes from all over the world when travel restrictions are not in place, obviously, and so we want to make sure that we can promote that worldwide too, and not just the normal tourism areas. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting into that and sitting on the chamber. So it's a great honor for me as well to work with everybody. So really looking forward to that, and I really appreciate the nomination. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. John and I also sit together on the Tourism Nanaimo Reformation Board as well. So Roberta, if you want to go to the next slide, and we'll introduce the slate of directors. Fantastic. Returning directors include Shauna, Corey, Dan, Joanna, Nathan, Kerry, and Travis. New directors, John Winter, Ian Anderson, and Aaron Sirkin. Appointments are Erilyn Thomas, Nanaimo First Nations, Jake Rudolph, City of Nanaimo, and William Litchfield returning as a VIU appointed representative. So I want to also acknowledge Greg Phillips is finally tapped out. Greg served us for a number of years as chair and did a fabulous job, has really contributed significantly towards the success of the chamber as it is now. Graham Morey served as our executive secretary, helped guide a lot of our actions and making sure that we're staying within bounds and not breaking any of those nonprofit rules. Meryl Chaley has served for years as our treasurer and also contributed to the success we're enjoying right now by helping us keep getting our financial house in order and keeping it in order. I really appreciate, and we will acknowledge these directors who are leaving the chamber with a gift of local art. So there's no presentation possible here today, of course, and we'll be doing that in whatever kind of COVID safe way that we can. Next slide. Motion by Dan Kaczyrka, seconded by William. Any discussion or questions? Calling the vote. And objections only once again. Seeing no objections, motion is passed. Welcome to the new board of directors. I look forward to working with you. Next motion, please. Motion number 6 is to approve the appointment of Church Pickard as review accountants for 2021. They have been our accountants since I've been with this organization, which is going on 8 years. The motion was made by Dan Kaczyrka and seconded by Erilyn Thomas. Any questions or discussion on appointment of the review accountants? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Objections only again, please. Seeing no objections, I welcome Anna and the team as our review accountants again for the coming year. Next slide, it's my honor to introduce our board treasurer, Dan Kaczyrka, and he will present the treasurer's report now.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. It has been a hell of a year, and I just want to echo Shauna's comments on the keywords of pivoting and changing, and a big pat on the shoulders for Kim and the team. And obviously a lot of our events were canceled. A lot of them continued on. We got some strong revenues from some of those. Overall, our revenues did decrease, but our membership revenues did increase, which is a big testament to where we're going and growing, and it's amazing. Our overall bottom line surplus was $38,000. So in a year of COVID, I think it's pretty amazing. So pretty awesome. Again, just like to thank all our members in the community, and definitely a strong board. We've worked together well throughout this year, and it's great. I would like to pass it off to Church Pickard and Anna Jones, who should be somewhere in the digital world here, and she can present the financial statements.
Thanks, Dan. Can you hear me all right then, Kim?
Yep. It's all good.
Okay, so I don't know if Roberta's going to share the financial statements, but they are in your annual report. So I'll just give a brief summary. So the first part is the independent practitioner's review report. It does say we reviewed the financial statements of the Greater Nanaimo Chamber of Commerce as at December 31st, 2020. So that's just one level down from an audit. And management is responsible for the fair presentation of the financial statements. And our responsibility is to express an opinion on the company financial statements based on our review. And then it does state in our conclusion paragraph that based on our review, nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe that the financial statements do not present fairly. So we'll go on now to the statement of financial position. So this year, there were total assets of $663,259, consisting of cash, accounts receivable, prepaid expenses, investments, internally restricted investments. They're both sitting in GICs, and property and equipment. This year, there was just minor capital asset additions of $2,600 for computer and office equipment. Then there's under liabilities and equity. There's total liabilities of $271,617, consisting of accounts payable and accrued liabilities, bursaries and scholarships. This year, the Chamber received $8,800 in donations, and it dispersed $16,500. Deferred revenue for membership dues, the CEBA loan. So the Chamber did get the CEBA loan. 10,000 of it has been recognized into income, the potential forgiveness that's required by accounting standards. And then there's deferred capital contributions that just represents cash and in-kind donations that were received for the building, and it just gets brought into income as the building gets amortized. Okay, and then I'll move on to the income statement. So as Dan said, revenue's down. There was a lot of events got canceled. We do see an overall decrease in expenses as well. So the Chamber did fall out with a positive surplus of $38,000. So I'll just touch on the major highlights. So you do see revenue is down. It does include $65,100 that was received for the Canadian Economic Wage Subsidy and $10,000 for that potential loan forgiveness for the CEBA. And then, as we're seeing with lots of organizations, although they did have a decrease in revenue, they even had a more substantial decrease in expenses. Okay. So that concludes my report. I'm open to any questions, and I always say if you're not comfortable asking me questions in this type of environment, I'm open to you just sending me an email or contacting me at the office. That's totally fine, as I am your accountant.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna. I did get one question that came in on the chat line here that I'll speak to. The question was, what comprises the increase in professional fees in 2020 versus 2019? We did contract with a firm to come in and consult with us on our administrative processes in order to streamline things and make us operate much more efficiently. And that accounted for $7,000 of the increase, which is practically the entire increase. So I hope that answers the question. Can we go on to the next slide for a motion, please? So the motion number 7 is to approve the Treasurer's report and the 2020 financial statements. It was moved by Shauna Phillips and and seconded by Travis Wilson. Any discussion or further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote and objections only to approving the Treasurer's report and the financial statements. Seeing no objections, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Dan, did you want to wind up with anything before we move on? You have you had a brief report.
Yeah, well, just to further, I just wanted to echo your comments with Merrill. Several years working with the board and obviously got us to a real strong position. So thank you, Merrill, wherever you are.
Thank you to all. Really appreciate your nice comments.
Thanks so much. Yes, we will move to the CEO report now, please. And in the interest of saving time, I'm only going to make one statement out of the statement that I had prepared. I'm excited about getting on with the speakers forum here. There's a report in the annual review that I submitted. I did prepare an additional one talking about some of the details of the year. I don't really want to get into all of that right now, but what I do want to do is thank the chamber staff who moved fluidly through this crazy 13 months that we've been through. Our contractors who did the same, to our volunteers who persevered, to our colleagues and partners in business and government, a lot of gratitude. And especially to our civic leaders in governance and the bureaucracy as we work together on some major projects. The Health and Housing Task Force that took somebody reminded me 19 months we were together working on the future of health and housing in our community. The Economic Development Task Force, which has nearly completed all of its work, resulting in the establishment of the Nanaimo Prosperity Agency, a board that I will continue to sit on and represent the chamber. And the reformation of Tourism Nanaimo, which we're in the middle of right now, working with a number of other community leaders. And lastly, to news that we will hear, I believe, this coming Monday from Council, and that is the fate of the new Business Improvement Association, which we have been working on establishing since 2018. That will come to its conclusion on Monday, or its kickoff actually on Monday, we're hoping. But among the changes we went through, perhaps the most significant was a re-examination of where we're located, what our facilities are, what our venue is, and is it the right fit for us in 2020, 2021, and beyond. So the board made a decision to put our building up for sale with the objective of raising as much money as possible from that sale in order to reinvest in new property, a new building, new quarters for us in downtown Nanaimo. We're very much hopeful that we will be co-locating with a number of other leading community economic development stakeholders. We'll leave the names off the table for now until we get a little bit further down that road. But trust me, the chamber is super excited about the potential for the future. We won't be moving until we found the best space possible that will allow us to continue serving members while also paying respect to the membership and past board members and past board leaders who created the legacy on Bowen Road that we now enjoy, and will vault us into a new legacy which will grow for the future, so that the work of those who went before be honored. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to throw the rest of that report into a blog, which will be posted later today. But I'll move to the next slide. Motion number 8, to adopt the CEO report, including committee and new member reports. And that's in your review. And that was moved by Corey Hostetter and seconded by Joanna Hesketh. I see no discussions or questions popping up, and so I will call the vote to adopt the CEO report. Objections only once again. And there are no objections, so we're adopting the CEO report, including the committee and new member reports. We'll move on to the next motion, please. Everybody's favorite. Motion number 9, to adjourn the 131st AGM. That was moved by Carrie Chassels. And any discussion, questions, objections? Nobody objects to adjournment. That's excellent. Thank you so much. And I see that all of our guest speakers are now lined up and ready to go. We will start off with our mayor, Leonard Krogh. Take it away, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Kim, and good afternoon, everyone. I firstly want to recognize we are gathered on the traditional territory where I am of the Nanaimo First Nation, with whom the city enjoys a much renewed and happy relationship. I want to extend my thanks to Kim and his team for working through the most interesting time, which has to be the most curse-filled word in the English language right now, the most interesting time in the lives of most of us. I want to thank also the outgoing members of the board who've served the chamber so well, and very much welcome the incoming members, those who stepped forward. And I think the presence of our CAO, Jake Rudolph, on the board, as well as the tripartite working group that we have now with the Port of Nanaimo, the City of Nanaimo, and the Nanaimo First Nation, all demonstrate that there is a strong sense that collaboration is what is necessary to keep moving this community forward. I think most of you know that I have a great interest and love for the history of this wonderful community. The Nanaimo First Nation have occupied and lived in these lands and prospered for thousands of years. Since contact, many other peoples from around the world have filled this community and made it the diverse and wonderful and community that is. But as much as I'm interested in its history, I'm working hard in its present, but looking forward with incredible confidence to its future. We have much to be happy about in this community, notwithstanding COVID. I understand the pressures that all of us are feeling, and certainly I've had to develop a sense of patience that isn't my long suit. But having said that, there are many, many reasons for optimism. I just want to point to a couple of things. Firstly, the city in and of itself, in terms of what we've done around some new hires, accepting the Nielsen report around our building permitting process and reorganization that will take place in the development process for the community is a very positive step. I can tell you that we're on track for another record year for building permits in Nanaimo, which tells me that there is still incredible confidence in this city. As I mentioned, the relationship with SFN, the port, the school board, the university, we're all spending a great deal more time working collaboratively than we have in the past. And just as a simple example of the kind of confidence that out-of-towners are demonstrating in our community, one of our long-standing business presidents, TELUS, is proposing a very significant development on Wallace Street, which I think most of you are aware of. And for me, that speaks volumes about the kind of confidence we have in our downtown. Yes, I'm the first to acknowledge we face challenges around the mental health, addictions, and acquired brain injury crisis that fills many of our streets with incredible human misery that we're all conscious of. But at the same time, those problems are shared across this province and across this country. And I have the privilege in a second or two of introducing one of our newest MLA in terms of the three who represent this wonderful city. But in doing that, I also want to recognize that Minister Malcolmson has been given an incredible portfolio in government, that we are looking to government who I think have demonstrated both in the Premier's mandate letters and the responsibilities given in his cabinet appointments, demonstrated a real interest and significant concern for the problems that the most vulnerable amongst us face. I recognize the efforts of our MP as well, Paul Manley and Adam Walker, and my old friend Doug Routley, a long-serving MLA. I'm delighted to see my friend Ravi Kalan in a ministerial position. And I say with great confidence that things are going to happen. This community is going to move forward. I have every confidence in its future, and I couldn't be happier than being in this position at this time in the history of this community. So without further ado, I want to introduce Parksville Qualicum's MLA, Adam Walker. I have some familiarity with that turf. I was a young man once representing that community. Unfortunately, I followed with a string of character-building defeats in political office. I trust MLA Walker will have a more successful future and continue to represent well his constituents. So over to you, MLA Adam Walker.
And I'm sorry to report,
oh God,
after that build-up, Leonard, that Adam gave us a last-minute apology that he had to be otherwise occupied dealing with constituency issues, no doubt. So
well, then Kim, I'm going to interrupt and introduce my friend and a very hardworking MLA and the minister responsible for mental health and addictions, who, as I said earlier, has been given an incredible responsibility. in managing a difficult portfolio in a challenging time, dealing with great respect, 30, 40 years of failed government policy on both sides of the House. So I'm not being partisan when I say this, but I have every confidence that Sheila, who works hard on behalf of our constituents here in Nanaimo, and her constituents rather, will do a great job. So welcome, Minister Malcolmson.
You're a friend, Leonard. Can you hear me all right? Excellent. I'm just going to try another thing here because this is not unmuting properly. Can you hear me now? Great. Excellent. Thank you, Kim and the Chamber, for the invitation. Thank you to Leonard for the impromptu introduction. I'm glad to follow in your footsteps in all kinds of ways. And great to see Paul on the screen there as well. I'm also joining you from Nanaimo First Nations territory. I am so looking forward to introducing my friend Ravi Kalon to the Nanaimo Chamber because it is an extraordinary chamber, such a partner in so many of the projects. I'm such an advocate for the affordable housing construction that we're doing, extremely cooperative in every way. Not all chambers are the same, and so I never take that for granted for a minute. Ravi, I want you to know how much in the way of resources and time and constructive problem solving the Nanaimo Chamber has dedicated to active engagement on some of the really long-term and intractable social justice issues that the mayor referenced. Us being a community that has 3 different ferry terminals in it, us being a port city, us being an area of long-term high child poverty, there are some social challenges that, as the mayor says, have been long embedded, and the impacts on small business could make this chamber entirely cranky about the issue, and yet they've dedicated considerable resources to being constructive partners. And I love the times that they'll turn on the radio and there's the United Way and the chamber talking together about how to solve some of these problems. Especially this past year, the way that chamber has supported business and been a navigator of the supports available, both federally and provincially, to navigate these difficult times has been impressive. The way that they have created a network to knit people together and to combat that isolation that, especially in the first months, people were feeling very strongly, was a real gift, and we're grateful to the chamber for that. And some of the solutions that you've seen, Ravi, BC-wide, were born here in Nanaimo. The BC Tourism Resiliency Network started here and generated success, and then was something that was scalable that our government then was able to take on and help support more broadly. So during this particularly challenging time, we've been especially grateful to have such a strong chamber. And I'm really happy also to introduce to the chamber my colleague, Minister Ravi Kalon. Born in Victoria, a field hockey Olympian, sports Hall of Famer, the son of a frontline healthcare worker and someone who saw firsthand the impact of the terrible layoffs and interference with job security and some of the impacts that have then, come home to bear fruit during our challenges around long-term care. Ravi's mom was directly involved in that, and so he's been a witness to how things go badly when we don't invest in people. He's political staffer for Adrian Dix. You can only imagine, given how much we've seen of Minister Dix this past year, what a good training that would be to the Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation. I'm so glad that Minister Kalon is here to talk with you about his work, and delighted that you're here. Over to you, Ravi.
Thanks so much, Sheila. I appreciate it, and it's a real honor to be with all of you today. And I bring greetings on behalf of Premier John Horgan, and I also want to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people. I wish I was there in person, but I think all of us wish we were all together in person. And thank you, Kim, for the invitation to the Chamber of Commerce AGM. I really appreciate the invite and look forward to hearing from some of your members today. And also want to acknowledge, I see Member of Parliament Paul Manley is here, and of course my colleague Minister Sheila Malcolmson. And I did see, after such a glowing introduction from our worship Mayor Krogh, that our MLA Adam Walker has actually popped up on the screen. I wish she had a chance to hear that introduction. I was envious of the introduction. It was quite impressive. And of course, it's so lovely to see you, Mayor. I learned a lot from you and as my first few years as being an MLA, and I know our loss is a big gain for the city of Nanaimo, and I look forward to seeing you in person again very soon. Since becoming minister, I've made it a priority to engage with business owners and industry organizations like the Nanaimo Chamber. Your input is critically important. I often say that government doesn't have a monopoly on good ideas. The good ideas come from communities. Good ideas come from collaboration. And I want you to know that we're listening. The province is committed to working with you on our economic recovery, as well as industry partners in all levels of government. It's critically important that we work together, not only as we are right now, but as we come out of this pandemic. Many of you will know British Columbia entered this pandemic as an economic leader in Canada. We had low unemployment, we had strong job growth. The second wave of this pandemic has been a long struggle. And with the introduction of the recent circuit breaker orders, we know we still have so much more to do to bend this curve, but we will do it. And we know a strong economy requires a healthy province. We've been focused to make sure that we keep both British Columbians safe as well as our economy functioning as best we can. Prior to the circuit breaker, we could see that we were making progress. Since the economic low point in April, we saw 11 consecutive months of job growth. We actually have surpassed 100% of pre-pandemic employment levels, the only major province in the country to do so. However, significant challenges remain for sectors where the pandemic continues to interfere with our operations, particularly, and this will be no surprise to folks on the call today, those in hospitality, tourism, the personal services sectors. Some businesses in these sectors won't be able to return to full capacity until we're through the crisis. That's why we introduced the Circuit Breaker Business Relief Grant to support businesses impacted by the new orders. And we know that those orders came in a very quick and sudden way. And so the Circuit Breaker was designed to support businesses to absorb some of those costs. I know that Nanaimo relies heavily on tourism, and keeping your community economy strong is very important to us. I know Sheila mentioned the BC Tourism Resiliency Network started in Nanaimo. She's very proud of that. She's told me that many times. And since then, we've expanded it throughout the province. And it's just a real testament to the work that happens in Nanaimo that we're able to see that work be expanded across the province. As you know, it provides businesses with access to digital information, hub, webinars, and we've seen other signs of economic recovery in Nanaimo as well. I have to mention, I know recently the expansion of the short sea shipping operations and a new lease agreement at Deep Point will mean jobs and opportunity for the next 50 years, which is amazing to see. And I know that new home construction continues to happen in huge numbers and with no end in sight. With Nanaimo quickly becoming an economic hub for Central and North Vancouver Island, the region is seeing rapid expansion in manufacturing and technology industries. Other important contributors to the economy in Nanaimo are Vancouver Island University, of course, good partner for the community, and of course the Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. Both of these organizations continue to be major employers and I think valuable members to the community. We've also seen innovation come to the forefront in the region in the recent years. Recently, Innovation Island, I know, which works with Innovate BC, which is within my ministry, is empowering businesses to evolve and grow in a new world that's becoming increasingly digital. businesses in Nanaimo are in great position to seize opportunities and to succeed once the pandemic is over. My ministry, the Ministry of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation, has a very broad mandate. We have a team of very dedicated public servants who are working on programs for small businesses, the tech sector, manufacturing, shipbuilding, aerospace, aviation, and mass timber. We also cover export development and strategic investment and trade agreements. But the common thread that runs through all these files is our approach to economic recovery. And our approach to economic recovery is going to be guided by three key pillars: innovation, sustainability, and inclusiveness. Innovation, because this pandemic has accelerated the pace of change, and innovation is needed to adapt. Things we expected to happen in 5 to 7 years are happening right now, and that pace is not about to slow down. The way we work, the way we study, shop, even the way we communicate like we are today are all changing rapidly, forcing businesses to innovate and keep up. So we're here to support the innovation that's required to pivot to whatever this new normal looks like. Secondly, sustainability. We cannot ignore climate change. As you all know, BC is a world leader in clean, renewable energy. We're also a responsible, low carbon producer of natural resources and manufactured goods. We're also working to make sustainability a larger part of British Columbia's brand and our global competitive advantage. Thirdly is inclusiveness, because we're committed to building an economic recovery that works for everyone. This means improving childcare so more parents can return to work, expanding our workforce. This means taking steps that we need on reconciliation. I think we all can agree that we owe it to the the Indigenous communities whose lands that we live and work on to make meaningful progress. This also means helping underrepresented people gain the skills and experience necessary to get good jobs in tech, in healthcare, and construction, because we need to ensure that Indigenous, Black, people of color communities are able to collectively reach our true potential, but they can only reach that true potential as if they have an opportunity to be at the table when decisions are being made. I want to touch a little bit on Stronger BC, which is our $1.5 billion economic recovery plan, which was created with a focus on innovation, sustainability, and inclusiveness. The plan will help fortify BC's healthcare system, expand critical public services. It will help thousands of people reskill for jobs. It will provide thousands of businesses with resources to help them adapt and grow. We recently made changes to the Launch Online Grant Program, which is increasing the amount of available funding as well as widening the eligibility to make it more accessible to more businesses. This program provides grants to help businesses build their online sales so they have the opportunity to become more competitive and grow their market. Stronger BC also includes, of course, the small and medium-sized business recovery grant. This grant helps businesses to recover while taking on more debt. And it also includes funds for the tourism sector, which I know is important to your community. And as I mentioned earlier, we have introduced the Circuit Breaker Relief Grant, which is direct funds to go straight to impacted businesses to help them get through the new circuit breaker restrictions that we're in right now. In closing, I'll just say that COVID-19 has tested us all. And Dr. Henry uses this phrase, which I've taken and I use all the time, which is we're all in the same storm, but each of us are in different boats. Some of us are weathering this storm better than others. That's why we're building a more inclusive economy that does not leave people behind. We know not all businesses and communities are struggling, but those that are struggling, they need our support. And we're prepared to invest in people, invest in businesses, in our communities to restore strong economic growth. While there's so much more work to be done, I'm confident we're going to continue to make progress together. And I'm so grateful for the partnership from the Nanaimo Chamber, your ongoing commitment to economic development. I'm so grateful for the support from all levels of government, and of course, the advocacy of Mayor Krogh, and look forward to continuing to engage with all of you as we move forward. So with that, Kim, I'm happy to take any questions that your members may have. Kim, I just love saying this because every meeting I'm in, someone has that opportunity. You're on mute.
I swore to myself I wouldn't have to pay $1 into the mute jar today. But
usually it's me, Kim. So I'm glad I could say it to someone else.
I was just noting that I recall working with you when you were provincial secretary on racism, and really appreciate your dedication and efforts to any task you've been handed by the government. I'm going to start by asking something that Minister Malcolmson will probably click on as well. And the question is, do you anticipate any funding for social innovation projects that aim to support or address homelessness, substance abuse, and/or community mental health to support economic recovery, especially of downtown districts?
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And before I jump into that, I just want to say that, and you mentioned the anti-racism meeting, and thank you for reminding me. I'm so impressed by the Nanaimo Chamber and Nanaimo overall. You know, when we launched that conversation around racism, Nanaimo was one of the first communities I came to. And I remember Mayor Krog was there. I remember you were there, and the amount of partners that came to the table to say, this is a problem and we need to start addressing it. Of course, since then, we've seen the issues escalate, but we can say proudly that we had some, I think, very meaningful dialogue and some meaningful progress made from that initial meeting that we had. And I want to acknowledge the commitment from the chamber to think broadly about the economy. You know, often when we look at the economy, certainly early on, the economy discussion was always framed on, you know, economic development and how do we put dollars into advancing, you know, XYZ issue. And now through COVID, what we're seeing is there's a better understanding in the public at the connection between all the social infrastructure and the care economy with our environmental goals as well as economic development, because they all go hand in hand. There's no separation between all of them. And so I'm glad you touched on social innovation. You know, we're very soon going to be announcing launching a strategic investment fund, which will be first of its kind in North America, where a government takes equity stakes and provides patient capital to address societal challenges and provides capital to address societal challenges. So whether that's companies that want to help address climate change or need access to capital and government support to have some patient capital do so, or whether they want to address societal challenges and they have a product that they feel will help make life better for British Columbians here in British Columbia, we'll be able to access this capital. We've been in discussions with the federal government about when we invest in companies, how they can add additional resources to support those companies, as well as funds from all over the world that are also triple bottom line that want to see opportunities to invest in British Columbia. So we're looking at the entire ecosystem of social innovation and climate change and thinking about how we can use provincial capital to support and drive those innovations. I mean, and so your question highlights a really important point. When we think of innovation, sometimes people just think of like the, you know, rideshare and all these tech companies that are there, but it's such a broad spectrum of the opportunities that we have through the innovation economy, and certainly in our healthcare system, we have huge opportunities, both to make improvements in people's lives, reduce costs for government when it's possible, and just make it life more accessible, whether it's folks who are looking at technologies to make mobility easier for people, whether addressing health, life sciences related technologies and innovations to make people's lives easier. We're looking at the broad spectrum of that, and certainly if there's opportunities here in Nanaimo, you've got some champions there that will raise the issue with me, and certainly you've got MP Manley who will raise the questions at the federal level as well.
Thanks very much for that. You'd think we planned this in advance because the next question feeds off of your response. So recognizing that the nonprofit sector is a vital component of BC's economy. I mean, here in Nanaimo, I count over 120 nonprofit members of our chamber, which is remarkable. Will the province recognize the value of this sector, which you pretty much answered in advance, but ensure that support programming is available to all nonprofits, such as ourselves, as well as for-profit enterprises.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and you know, we've launched some programs that support not-for-profits. You know, we had the Launch Online program where we do have not-for-profits that are applying and taking that and using this opportunity to grow their digital footprint, to be able to get donations online, etc. We had a digital boot camp, which was available for not-for-profits, and we had a huge success. So we actually had to expand that program from the beginning. You know, we thought it was just going to be an opportunity for businesses to expand their operation, or not-for-profits to expand their presence digitally, but it turned into a whole new stream where we saw not-for-profits identify new opportunities for themselves, or businesses opportunities for themselves. And so we were able to expand both programs, in fact, doubled the budget for both of them, so that we could see more businesses and not-for-profits access that. I think there's a lot more work to do, though, Kim, when it comes to not-for-profits. You know, when we look at what an inclusive economic recovery will look like, we know in the not-for-profit sector, there's a lot more women employed in the not-for-profit sector, a lot more leaders that are women, a lot more new immigrants and people of color that are in these sectors. And so a strong not-for-profit sector means a strong economic recovery. And so you'll certainly be hearing a lot more of that as time goes forward.
I'm going to sneak in one last question, being very conscious of your commitments after this. But one of the issues that is repeatedly brought up with us is that those businesses who had been planning a startup, started up in 2019, or started up, you know, the luck of the calendar didn't fall their way, and they started in early 2020. They seem to fall between the cracks because there's not comparatives for them. Is there some sort of special programming? And I believe in BC Chambers meetings with yourself and the Premier that this was brought up, but I haven't seen anything yet. I'm wondering if there is any consideration for those.
Well, the circuit breaker that we announced, Kim, last week is actually available to every business regardless of when they opened up. And so what we've done with that program is businesses that opened up, that were open prior to the pandemic, can use their employment number prior to the pandemic, and businesses that have opened up during the pandemic use their employment number as of February 1st this year, prior to the circuit breaker, so that they can get maximum dollars. So those dollars are available regardless of when you opened up. Certainly early on in the pandemic, when the Small Business Recovery Grant was created, the structure was to be able to show a recovery plan and show the viability at the time. But as you've raised that point, Kim, yourself and others have raised that issue of supporting businesses that opened up during the pandemic. And so this circuit breaker program is targeted to them. Of course, there's tax credits and for hiring and rehiring employees that is available. And recently, Kim, we also, I know that the restaurant industry has been asking for over a decade, and certainly the chambers have been advocating for over a decade, pricing changes to liquor for restaurants. And in any normal time, this would be a massive celebration, where 25% reduction for liquor pricing for restaurants. But again, it's the times that they're in now, it kind of just happened. And not only did we make it for the pandemic, we made it permanent going forward. So there's a whole host of measures, tax cuts, property tax cuts that everybody benefits from. And we're proud. We have the highest per capita supports for people in business in the country. And I think that's reflected in why we're at 100.8% of pre-pandemic level employment. And that's why also, if you look at the average wage for workers, it's $4 an hour higher than it was pre-pandemic. And so, and I don't want to sugarcoat the challenges we have. We have challenges. It's going to be a tough couple of years ahead, no doubt. And we have some businesses that are struggling, and I know that. I've been trying to meet with as many as I can, but we're putting as many supports as we can. And as the restrictions start easing, as people start getting vaccinated, we will be a leader in the country for economic growth. Every economist is projecting that, and what the conversation we'll be having in the coming weeks and then months going forward and I look forward to engaging with you, Kim, and others, is what does the future of our economy look like? Where are the opportunities? And I'm not talking next year, I'm talking 10 years, 20 years from now. How do we ensure that every investment we make as a province goes to driving positive economic growth, and where we as a community can see economic value for us as a society? And how do we ensure that everybody sees an opportunity in that growth, not just a certain group? So those are the things that we're putting a lot of thought into, and look forward to engaging with all of you on that in the near term.
Thank you so much, Minister Kalin. I'm going to thank you on behalf of the board of the Chamber, Nanaimo Chamber, our membership, and the whole business community, and the entire community, because what we've done together to help salvage this economy has provided for, well, it's demonstrated a heck of a lot of resilience for one thing, but it's also provided for some peace of mind from folks. And I want to thank you not only on behalf of Nanaimo, but as past president of the British Columbia Chamber Executives Association. I want to thank you on behalf of all 93 chambers across British Columbia. Appreciate the time you've given us. Thank you very much. And I know that, we held you over a couple of minutes. I'm sorry about that.
The Consul General of Vietnam is waiting for me in another room, so I'll tell him that I was meeting with some important delegates from Nanaimo. It was lovely to see you all, and stay safe to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
I was almost going to use that word I swore I'd never use. Going to pivot now and go back to MLA Walker so he can squeeze in the words that he would have provided to us earlier in the chat.
I appreciate that, Kim, and following Minister Kalin is something else. I feel so fortunate to be in this caucus with amazing people, and especially Ravi. I mean, I know he's working so hard for the business community all over the province, but especially right here in Nanaimo. I apologize for being late. There's no excuse. I apologize for that. I just want to thank you, Kim, and all of your chamber members and all of the small and medium businesses in our community as these provincial health guidelines continuously change. I know it's a struggle for business, and they're right there keeping their staff safe, keeping the public safe, and it means a lot that the business community is there in collaboration with government. I mean, you are the small and medium-sized businesses are the drivers of our province. And it's just so important that we're working cooperatively to make sure that we keep moving things forward. So I didn't have much prepared. I'm impressed with as we physically are distancing ourselves from each other, how businesses have come together. They've supported each other. They've done what they can to make sure that as many businesses thrive, and we're doing the same on our end. And anything that my office can do, and I know the same goes for the other offices, to support the good businesses in Nanaimo. We're here to do everything we can, and I just want to thank you so much for keeping us safe and keeping your employees working.
Thanks very much, MLA Walker. Really appreciate those words. Part of the business core of our city happens to be within your riding. So yes, I'm sure there is great interest on your part about the business of Nanaimo. I want to mention that MLA Routley also was invited, but was unable to attend, although he did pass along best wishes for all the members. And also a thank you to the board who worked so hard on a volunteer basis for us. So that leaves us with our Member of Parliament, Mr. Paul Manley, to provide the final words from government representatives here today. Take it away, Paul.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. It's a real honor and privilege to be here on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation, and I want to thank you and the Chamber for all of the work that you've done during these difficult times, and I've seen you step up in a really big way. I'm the Member of Parliament for Nanaimo Ladysmith, and that falls within the traditional territory of Nanaimo, Snanawas, Staminas, and Layax, and it's important to do a territorial acknowledgement, but what I want to highlight is that this year is the celebration of 150 years of BC joining Confederation. And as part of that agreement, we had to have a railway that joined all of our capitals together. And to get that railway built on Vancouver Island, the land of these First Nations was dispossessed. And we saw Robert Dunsmuir, a coal baron, who was the richest man in British Columbia and a member of the cabinet of the government, in a very corrupt deal. I guess nobody else wanted to build the railway, but he did. Got 8,000 square kilometers and $750,000 to build the E&N Railway. And the legacy of that land grant or land grab, as the First Nations communities would characterize it, carries on today in the treaty process, the lack of Crown land here to negotiate. And I just want to put that into your ears to think about as we celebrate Confederation this year. The land grant happened in 1884 and continued for a number of years, and the effects are still being felt today. I know it's been a really tough and difficult time for people during COVID, and you know, with the federal government, we took a real Team Canada approach at the beginning of the pandemic. There wasn't a lot of partisanship. We worked really hard to make sure that we got the benefits out to Canadians, and we did that through unanimous consent motions where everybody agreed that we needed to move quickly to make sure that Canadians were taken care of with things like the CERB, the wage subsidy, the small business loan, later on the HASCAP program for highly affected sectors. And we worked really hard to make sure that we took care of community and people in community and small business. And I heard from a lot of small businesses in this community and brought their voice to the House of Commons. From the beginning of the pandemic, we were calling for a national strategy, though, like other jurisdictions around the world. My brother lives in Taiwan, and so I was able to get reports from what was happening in Taiwan. And I was asking for a mask mandate in March, because the basic physics of putting a mask in front of your face will stop the propulsion of air. I didn't need to get through grade 9 to learn that. And we also asked for the government to implement the Emergencies Act. It replaced the old War Measures Act. It was a piece of legislation that was developed during a time when we weren't in a crisis. And there's a health emergencies provision of that, which would limit interprovincial travel, which is a constitutional right, which would have bound the provinces to work together. And that was rejected multiple times when we asked, and when I've been in debate in Parliament, one of the things that I got back was that the government was trying to avoid a constitutional crisis. And it really speaks to the dysfunction of our federation, that 23,000 people have died, that 180,000 small and medium-sized businesses are on the verge of closing forever, that we've run up the largest deficit in Canadian history, that we have a mental health crisis, that we have a crisis of intimate partner violence, and that the number of women who have been killed in this country has more than doubled in this last year. And we're in the third wave of this pandemic, and we're seeing it spread in the large provinces. And again, you know, we're going back into this lockdown, and it speaks to a dysfunction in our parliamentary system. At least we did not have a constitutional crisis over a pandemic. And I think we really need to think about how we work as a country, how we work across party lines to try to be less partisan in the way that we do things, to be less controlling about what happens within our jurisdictions, because pandemics do not respect jurisdiction, and neither does climate change. And so these are things that we need to work on together as a federation. I'm going to continue pushing the government. You know, we're expecting the budget on Monday, and we're pushing the government for additional supports for small and medium-sized enterprises. To the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is calling for a continuation of all of these programs, and for the nonprofit sector as well. It's really important that these sectors survive this pandemic, and that are made whole through this process. We've seen the wealthiest Canadians, the billionaire class, do very, very well. We've seen the international multinational giants Amazon, Google, etc., do very, very well. And we need to make sure that we bounce back, because small and medium enterprises are the engine of our economy. They are the engine of the economy in Nanaimo, Ladysmith. And I'm going to continue to work and fight to make sure that we get the benefits that those businesses and nonprofits need. We have a housing affordability crisis and homeless crisis, not just here in Nanaimo, but across this country, and it's worse in other places up north at, as high as 17% homelessness. There's 10,000 people that are homeless in Toronto, and 13,000 homes that, households that have received eviction notices that will come due as soon as the pandemic lockdowns are lifted. And we need to work harder to ensure that we provide affordable housing for people, that we work to protect our market, our housing market, from predatory investors, foreign investors. We've seen what's happened with our housing market, used as a place to launder money and as a place, as a tax evasion haven for people from around the globe who are taking money out of their home economies and burying it here and driving up the price of real estate in Vancouver and Toronto. And now that is spread to the rest of these small communities. I do want to echo the comments of the mayor, though. We are a resilient community and we have a path forward, and what we need to do is just stand together and work hard to create the kind of community that we want, the kind of country that we want, and we can do this. We're a resilient people. We're going to get through this pandemic one way or the other. I'm looking forward to getting my job soon and being able to get on a plane without worrying about picking up COVID on my way back to Ottawa. And I just want to finish by saying that my door is always open. I'm happy to serve the community in a caring, compassionate, nonpartisan way. And if you ever need services, I'm more than happy to be here. And I know the same goes for MLA Walker and Minister Malcolmson, and also working on some of these issues that Minister Malcolmson's working on, the addiction and mental health crisis that we face and that we need to deal with, and it affect our community in very negative ways. So thank you again to the Chamber for all of your hard work and commitment. And it's been a tough year, and the light is not at the end of the tunnel yet. We have to get through this third wave, and we can do this together. Look out for those who are the most vulnerable in our community, and take care of each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Really great words, especially reflect positively on your comments on First Nations. We are honored to have representation from Nanaimo at our board table, have had for some time, learned a long time ago how much value their wisdom and their approach, their philosophical approach is, and to contribute that to the Chamber has been significant in us understanding the needs of of our Indigenous population here. We were on the verge of signing an MOU with Nanaimo First Nations. We have introduced Carol Ann Hilton to the community from Indigenomics Canada, and we are convinced that the next great wave of growth will come from Indigenous entrepreneurs. We are in the process right now, I'm proud to say, of developing a Mid-Island Indigenous Business Directory, which we hope to have out in the fall. So I want to thank everybody who came and spoke to us in the Speakers Forum. All of the government representation that we had there was excellent. I want to say thank you to the members who joined the meeting today, and thank you again to the staff of the Chamber for the awesome work that they do all the time. Thanks for attending, everybody, and we'll see you in 12 months' time, and we may be in the same room together, fingers crossed. Take care. Have a great weekend. It's beautiful. Let's start it right now. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.